Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me, as always, is my partner, James Fox. How are you, James?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
Doing well. Interesting week. Not a whole lot of positive outcomes, really, from the game, the box scores from the affiliates, but there were some big things happening, so that's pretty good.
Yeah,
You?
some interesting stuff with the high end guys that people know, I feel like.
Yeah. I guess. So Kyle Teel had a pretty phenomenal game, and his stats are starting to look pretty stinking good. Like they kind of dipped for a little while, but it looks like things have been on the up and up. He's hitting 319 now, with a 825 OPS, which is more than I was expecting from him right off the bat. So I don't know your thoughts on the Kyle Teel.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's lots of Ks, but 119 WRC plus out of a catcher, it's obviously a small sample size. So, even if he's that guy, he's, even if he's like a 115 WRC plus guy, like I think the power is probably going to come a little bit like to the point where it's like 15 to 20 home run power. Yeah, he looks pretty good. I think Carroll looks pretty good too. I think we both expect him to hit for power at some point too, and he hasn't really done it at all. He's kind of taken an opposite field approach, and I think they wanted him to work on defense, and it seems like he has because he's looks even better than he's. And I thought he was a fine defensive catcher in the minors. Obviously, like I didn't really understand any of the talk that he like couldn't catch. But it definitely he's not afraid to throw down like on the back picks and stuff. Like he's doing that stuff all the time, man. He like fires down to bases, no problem. So yeah, I think having both catchers in the big leagues, you know, like I went on White Sox Weekly last week and they kind of asked me like, what's the most interesting thing? And I'm like, well, I guess having two catchers probably. Like, how do they deploy them? Like, is this the right thing? But it's way better than watching Corey Lee and a veteran cast off, right? So yeah, I'll take this and figure out how they can play them together.
Yeah, I find this the it's tough. It's like unfortunately two of your top prospects are both catchers, so you can't have them in the field at the same time unless unless you decide to move one of them to first base on the off days. Of course we're gonna see them DHing, but that makes it a little bit more difficult with them being the same position. But you take it. You can't be mad that you've got two good young catchers.
No, yeah, it's very interesting. So one of the questions we have from Ben Stenson asked if the favorite play of the weekend one, like Caro's back pick at third or Teal's RBI double. I kind of like Meidroth's like stealing the bag and juking the guy better than both. I think that was awesome. Like today, it was just like that dude is like everything that I expect. And he slumped a little bit. I think his OPS is under 700, but like I think it'll be over 700 by the time the season's over. Um, he's pretty much as advertised so far, I think.
Yeah, I've got that play. Let me just go ahead and I'll go ahead and move over here. And it'll take me a second here, but I'm going to get that slide because that slide was awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring that up. Let's just go ahead and watch that because this slide is fantastic.
Yeah.
When do you see a White Sox guy do stuff like that? Not really all that often.
Well, and Peralta's he's fallen over, like like it's like I'm just gonna wait a second.
Tried so hard to get that tag on.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, pretty good. Let me go ahead.
It's pretty interesting. And then even like obviously we've been over the Grant Taylor thing, and I think everybody knows our thoughts on it, but that doesn't mean that it's not fun watching him come in and pump gas for 2 innings. Like it's just like, oh my god, like you can just look at the facial expressions on his opponents that are just like, Jesus, like what is that thing? Then why do I have to try to hit against him?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel bad per se, but watching him for 2 innings was really nice. The fact that they actually gave him the run to do so,
Yeah.
and for a 2 inning save on a 1-0 game, I first thing I texted was 1-0 game. We don't win those.
No, never. And I think now you're kind of in a position where if your starter can go deep enough, right? I think like Brandon Eisert is quietly like pretty good. And then Steven Wilson, his numbers are decent too. So like if you can just use those two guys and Taylor, right? Like maybe you're okay. The issue is, I mean, even a game like today where Jonathan Cannon was designed to go 3, they still like functioned somehow. When I saw that he was not in the fourth, I was like, oh boy, like this is gonna be bad, like trying to get to the back end. But I mean, I think San Francisco's offense isn't very good. But you know, yeah, well, it's pretty interesting.
I mean, with the addition of Rafael Devers, it certainly makes them more dangerous, but I don't know that it necessarily made them better. So, um, Uncle Ted says would have loved to see Taylor come back out today in the ninth. I don't think after 2 innings that they were going to do that, but I mean, with how electric he is, you want to see him as
Yeah.
much as you can.
Well, and it does seem like Venable is really managing. Like I was surprised he came out for the ninth because like Venable had him come in and face their 9-1-2. So I just kind of think that he generally uses guys like in the highest leverage spot, right? So like I was gonna ask you, like, if they get save chances, do you think it's Grant Taylor? But then I thought to myself, like, well, it's just it kind of seems like the way Venable manages, like if the tougher spots in the eighth, like you're gonna see Taylor in the eighth, and then maybe he closes with somebody else, or maybe they just do the 2 inning save. But I'm glad that he's kind of being thrown into the fire like immediately.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, he's their best guy, so they probably should.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Mike Vassell as well, as mentioned in the comments.
Yeah, he's
He's
been
also
really
been
good.
he's been useful as well. And we've had this talk before that the Rule 5 roster for the White Sox has been pretty impressive. I mean, Shane Smith's had his last couple of starts have been a little bit more rough. And I'm not entirely sure what to attribute that to yet. It's kind of one of those things that I want to wait and see if it continues. But I mean, not often do and I heard Bannister say this, that not often do you get a Rule 5 player that's a starter and actually have him be worth anything. And Smith's been awesome, besides the fact that his last couple starts have been rough.
Yeah, right. I mean, is it like the league kind of figuring him out? Like, is he ultimately best used in relief? Like, or is he just like hitting a wall because he's never thrown this much before? I think that's probably more likely. I do wonder if, because they kind of said that Davis Martin is throwing bullpens, and then he's probably going to go on one rehab start, and then he'll be back. Like, they don't really seem too concerned. And obviously, like, I don't know the future of Aaron Savali and who else do they have? Just like some of the veteran guys.
Hauser.
Hauser. They just signed Noah Syndergaard, so who knows, right? But like, can they give Smith a rest here at some point? There's nothing stopping them from putting him on the IL too and being like, oh, his oblique hurts, like he needs 2 weeks off, type of thing. So they didn't say, they said he's making his next start. So we'll see if it looks better. But I think that's for all these guys, Burke, Cannon, like they're just, these guys are not, this is going to be the most they've ever pitched. So, they are going to have to figure some things out, whether that's us watching Mike Clevenger in September or they get somebody else to come up. But, these innings are going to have to be like massaged a little bit somehow.
Yeah, I mean, Clevenger's, I mean, I know that a lot of people, especially a lot of the listeners here don't want to see Clevenger. And I can't say that I necessarily blame you, but he has looked pretty good in Charlotte. And if you can limit runs in Charlotte, your odds go up, I think, considerably in Chicago, just due to the park factor.
Yeah. Doug asked if Smith has more innings than last year already. So he's at like 74. And I think the most he's ever thrown is, I think he threw 92 total last year. So, no, he's not at his number, but he's thrown way more at this point this year than he had at this point last year. So it's just kind of
Yeah, it's also June.
yeah.
So Doug also brought up that Luis Robert is out again. Granted, it's retroactive with the hamstring to the 26th, so you're looking at like late next week that he would be eligible for return. Um, your thoughts on what they're going to do with that spot with him going on the IL? You think Baldwin's coming back?
He wasn't in the lineup today, so my first thought was that he would just meet the team in LA and come back for now. I mean, it could be anybody because they have enough outfielders, but it's obviously not Colson yet. And Elko played today. I feel like they would have sat him today. So yeah, my guess is it's Baldwin for the time being. Did you see? So there's interesting about Luis Robert. How much does this matter to you? So he's obviously atrocious, right? But then I heard something from someone and looked it up, and I tweeted it earlier. He has a 144 WRC plus against left-handed pitching this year. He's murdering lefties. His OPS is well over 8. Now his OPS his WRC plus against righties is 37. So how much value does he have if he's like a lefty masher that plays above average defense in center and steals bases? I don't know, but I think it's the one saving grace that we can tell ourselves that oh, he's not totally useless. Maybe they can get something. So, yeah, that's all I really have. At this point.
That's pretty bizarre, actually. I hadn't looked at his
splits. I hadn't either.
That's pretty crazy. It's surprising.
He's just turned into a lefty masher that does nothing else.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's righty sliders that he can't hit, and it's just, but so I mean, that makes him not useless. It's just, I mean, with the defense, you would think that you wouldn't want to sit him against right-handed pitching.
I like this idea. This is fantastic.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be
Luis Robert for JJ Weatherholt. I agree, Uncle Ted.
Let's do it. I'll drive him to St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly pack up his bags in the van and drive him down. That's good.
Yeah, that would be a great trade actually for the Sox.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with him. That's tough. I mean, obviously they held on to him, hoping that they were going to be able to, that he would regain some of his trade value, and that has failed miserably. That's been tough.
Yeah, I kind of think it is what it is too. I mean, you can blame the front office if you want. I know that the offers weren't really great, and they hope they'd be better, and I don't know that they're going to be better, and they gambled and lost. Right? I do think the one thing that I think is kind of humorous is, a lot of people were mad that they didn't wait to trade Dylan Cease, and those same people are mad that they didn't trade Luis Robert early. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's it's like the same. You know what I mean? Oh, they should have held Cease and got more, but then that's what they did with Robert. And those same people are they should have traded him already. They messed up. So,
yeah, I mean that's the conundrum from social media for being a GM. No matter what you do, unless you make some absolute heist, no matter what you do, you're going to hear about it. So, you got anything else that you want to talk about with the big league club per se?
No, because we get some some high end prospect news too as well.
We do. So we're supposed to have Jeff Ellis on tonight. He's traveling. So we're waiting to see if he shows up. He's supposed to be here shortly. I don't know.
Yeah, and if he hops on, we got enough to talk about. We'll do some draft stuff and take questions if he doesn't hop on, and then we'll try to just reschedule and record with him. But so if we're here talking, he's not coming, or he'll just pop on here. So,
yep. All right. So let me go ahead and bring up the video screen. So I'd say probably the biggest news from this week, I mean, really for June, as far as prospect wise goes, has been Colson Montgomery. He's hitting 281 in June, and this week he just went bonkers in Toledo. and forget the give me a little bit of grace there with the cliche headline there of Holy Toledo, but I mean he went ham this week. Hit 500, hit 4 home runs, 2 doubles, a triple, and 8 RBIs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just like think it's weird that he was, like he looked pretty good, and then he was like interrupted twice, where it looked like he was like kind of going back in the tank again. And then you look at the overall numbers, right? So if you're not somebody that's watching all the time, I kind of think that most people kind of thought that he was just back in the doldrums, right? And then he goes on this power surge. I mean, his OPS jumped like 60 points in like a week basically because of some of this. So, the swing I think looks similar personally, but he's just getting more results. I don't know that the White Sox would want to bring him up to face the Dodgers. And this is not sourced at all, but I mean, if he's in Chicago for the Toronto series, like a week from tomorrow, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think like if he does this for like another week in Charlotte, I think we're going to see him in Chicago because there's really no reason not to.
Yeah, I would say probably the main difference that I see with his swing is that he's keeping close for longer, and that's allowing him to use center field, not only right field, because before his hips and his front shoulder were both flying wide open, so he's selling out to go to right field, and I don't feel like he's doing that as much anymore.
Yeah, and I do think that it's just like I think there's some people that are like, "I'll make him prove it in AAA all year," that sort of thing. I think they want to get him up and just see, right, if he could be a part of this thing, even if it's not as the shortstop. Like maybe he's at first, maybe he's in left, whatever, right? They just want to find out if the bat plays. So yeah, I think we're pretty close to a call up, unless this week like goes horribly wrong or something.
Yeah, and like when you had messaged me before, like my main thing that I said is I wanted to make sure that uh the mud hens aren't a cure all for everything that ailed Colson Montgomery. I agree with some people saying that I want to see him continue it past this week. But the fact that he's hitting 281 over June and he's got like a 127 WRC plus for the whole month suggests that he has made strides in the right direction, and that his time in Arizona was time well spent.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, like Tigers affiliates, it was like they're pretty good, aren't they usually? But I mean, they got like a good system, so he just like went off there.
Yeah, is that the problem with Detroit's AAA team is that like most of their guys are lower in the system. Like their high A team is fantastic. Their A ball team is fantastic. I think all of their teams. I don't know what the Mud Hens record is now after this series, because the Knights did play them pretty well. I think maybe actually they split with them if I remember correctly now. But all of their affiliates are over 500, which is something that we can't say. So
Yeah,
not bad.
yeah, no, that's good.
Um, answer your question there, Doug. I do not really have much video. I just have like a couple of hits here and there um, from my kids' games. They played in the championship game today at the Marlins High A affiliate field, and that field was fantastic. What a nice time to just be able to go there and play some baseball. They did end up losing, but hey, uh, got to have a winner, got to have a loser, and things didn't bounce their way. What are you gonna do? So moving along with other high profile guys, Hagen Smith made his return this week for the first time in a month, and pitched against the Cubs Double-A affiliate, the Smokies, in their new stadium in Knoxville. They are historically known for just being, kind of, Ozzie Guillen piranhas, the piranhas, super annoying, taking a lot of pitches, fouling off a ton of pitches. And Hagen Smith only afforded 33 pitches, There was a walk in there and 1 hit, but he strikes out 3, and the velocity was back.
He was 96 to 98 with the fastball. I mean, he looks more closed to me, like with my, I'm not some like pitching analyst. I mean, like he looked off before and he looks pretty normal now. I mean, obviously, like the 1 2/3 isn't great. Like he just, to me, like he just needs innings. Like I don't really care what happens. We'll get into a similar thing with Noah Schultz. But I mean, yeah, like 1 inning start. Like he's got to start throwing innings because I kind of think that I don't know that their plan has changed as far as like Hagen Smith being on the White Sox in Chicago in 2026, right? So he needs innings if they're going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, we had talked about both him and Noah making a major league debut possibly later on this season, but with the month off for Hagen Smith, I wouldn't be surprised if we do not see that, but who knows? So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and move to the other guy just to get this out of the way, and I'm going to get Jeff sorted here in his window in our other screen. But Tanner McDougal has been making quite the noise down in Birmingham since getting promoted. He's looked fantastic. For his time, he's made 3 starts in Birmingham, and he's got a 1.76 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP. The walks are down overall. I know that that's one thing that he's been super vigilant about wanting to get rid of, and he's at a 23 strikeout to 6 walk ratio right now. Your thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's doing it in Birmingham too. I think, we were a little bit concerned coming into the year. I think he got some prospect hype from guys like Keith Law. You and I have both been big fans, but I think we've said multiple times this year, if you made me bet, I would have bet reliever. And he's, quickly changing like that narrative right now. He's Rule 5 eligible, I believe, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's another one of these guys that we potentially see, and he's still super young, so this is like really positive what he's doing in the Southern League.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. I mean, obviously, you know my feelings on Tanner. I mean, I've been in on him for years now, so this just like this is one of those things where I've just been waiting for him to get his his ducks in a row and finally be able to handle this stuff. And it looks like things are coming together for him, and I'm stoked. Makes me super happy. So, all right, so we have a guest. We go ahead and bring him in here. Jeff Ellis of Locked On Guardians. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well with the draft approaching. Not so well as someone who has to talk about the Guardians. I think I'll have about 4 people watch my show tomorrow. I'm going to be real honest. It's a bit of a fair weather fan base, and let me just say that it won't be very happy tomorrow.
They don't tune into you for the draft stuff though.
No, I mean, maybe I'm just getting the wrong set of fans, but it's a reactionary base, and then like. It's a lot of football takes on how baseball works, and that's just not how it goes.
Yeah,
so,
I understand. Yeah, I mean, probably for good reason though. As a Cleveland fan, I mean, I kind of get it. Like,
yeah,
being the reactionary part, anyways.
Yes.
But, yeah, we see plenty of that over here on our side. lots of knee jerk stuff, and especially with us being the main purveyor of Sox prospect news. There is knee jerk all over the place, whether it's a great week, whether it be a bad week, or even a bad game. It's like it's the end of all days when something doesn't go right, or it is the best thing ever when something does go right.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to fire the front office right now, which makes perfect sense because Cleveland's front office has not been successful. But to a fan base, it's weird because it's a fan base where if the Browns make the postseason, it's the best season ever. Where Cleveland has made the postseason like 8 out of 10 years, and that's not good enough.
Well, I guess we can go ahead
Yeah.
and move here to the draft coverage. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up right now because we got a super chat here from Trey. Says Billy Carlson, JoJo Parker, Steele Hall.
Yeah, Trey messaged me with that earlier too. So we'll see. I mean, we'll talk to Jeff here. I think if the first two guys are gone, it might be Steele Hall, but they've surprised me before. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's very much an eye of the beholder with this class. I gotta admit, I am not consensus. I am not chalk with a lot of ranks this year. So I'm going to be a little bit out of left field, a little bit different in the fact that I actually consider Parker the highest of that group. I'll say that just without giving away too much.
Yeah, no, I understand buying the bat. I just, I think, we can get into it. So just thoughts on this draft class as a whole. I kind of know what other people have said. We've had other guests on. Just what are your thoughts? Just like your main takeaways as like the entire class as a whole.
I think honestly, I would have taken the top 7 to 8 last year over anyone this year. I got to be real honest about that. It's actually a good year, I think, for the White Sox to have had that like incentive penalty. Like this is the year where you want to pick later, not pick higher. Does Uncle Ted know me? Why is he asking about Boston Smith? That's like my under the radar guy I talk about on my show.
So he asked who did we have on? Did he ask Tyler about him?
I think so, yeah.
Or was it so? Yeah, we had Tyler Jennings on, and we had Burke Granger on last week.
Okay.
And Burke knew him because Burke knows all the obscure college guys. So,
yeah, I literally spent about 5 minutes on him last Friday on Locked On Guardians, maybe closer to 2 or 3. So if you want to go check out the last 2-3 minutes of that show, I know I shouldn't get focused on the comments. I'm like, no one talks about Boston Smith. That threw me for a moment. Yeah, it evens out, and I do kind of like the middle range of it, and then it's kind of a typical class. It's just the guy, like a year ago when I was pulling up the advanced data, there were multiple guys that were what I call green across the board, which is I sit there and I put the percentiles in based on the data I have. And a dark green means you're in the top 10%, light green, top 25%. And I could do that for hitters. And there was like 3 to 4 hitters who were all green and all dark green. There isn't that this year. And with pitchers, I like a Liam Doyle, but I get a little worried when someone has that much zone whiff because that's not going to translate well. Like I want to see more chase and things like that. Well, it seems on paper like a positive thing. I don't love the there's certain things that just stand out where I don't love the top of it. I just get very nervous about some of those guys. I'm this way I am the consensus. I think it is a very, very weak class at the top.
Well, so like, and Ian, we've talked about this, like, like generally, like some of these college hitters pop and they go up high. And this year it's just like the college guys are underwhelming. So just Jeff, like your comparison, I guess, and like you might not be consensus, but I mean like Arquette, Irish, like that top group, like compared to your recent college guys, it just seems like kind of a staggering difference.
Yeah, and I don't even like Irish. I got to be real honest. I know everyone likes him, but it's like he has a bad launch angle. You're gonna have to rework that swing. He also can expand the zone a bit. Like I think one of the things I preach about more than anything else right now is like we have to be very honest. Like I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm not the biggest draft mind by any means, but I've been reading it for 20 and involved in it for 15 now. I think if we're very honest about it, none of us can properly evaluate hit tool. Like hit tool is one of those things we think we know, but like even at the college ranks, we see so few at bats with like velocity or big movement or even like a developed third pitch that we can't really evaluate a guy's hit tool. So especially with someone like Ike Irish, where the big pull, it's like he's got a plus hit tool. Well, I'm old enough to remember again, as a Guardians fan, where Bradley Zimmer and Tyler Naquin in back-to-back years were called the best hit tool in college baseball. And yeah, it's been, probably about a decade since then, but we're still not very good at evaluating hit tools. That's why often I get a little bit, like I like JoJo Parker the best of that group, but I get a little bit nervous because his best tool is supposedly on paper his hit tool. And I don't know how good we are. Like you can say what power is. You can say if someone's got an eye at the plate. Hit tool is a little more nebulous, and that just always makes me a little bit concerned with like an Ike Irish, where I see stuff where I'm like, I don't know if that's a plus hit tool.
Yeah, the hit tool seems like it. I mean, it depends so heavily upon what kind of pitching they're seeing.
Yeah.
And it just makes it a little bit more difficult, especially, like when you're trying to go from prep to college and trying to figure that whole thing out. That makes it even worse.
Yeah. It does not translate easily. There's so many other things that do, and it's one of those things we get wrong a lot of times. And it's such a small sample against real good competition.
Well, and one of the things so do you like Gavin Keelan?
I do. I don't love him. Like there was a point where I did have him in my top 10. If I'm honest, he's now like closer to like 17 or 18, just because I do think he has a lot of good tools and traits. And there's a chance there's a shortstop in there, and the ceiling's kind of low for that. So like I look at that type of stuff, but I'm not super high on him, even though his I did all the deep diving on like his dad. I was trying to find out more details about like his time at a college that I don't even think exists anymore. But he's an interesting player who had some nice stuff. And again, probably a top 15 talent, maybe for me when it's all said and done.
Right. I only asked because he's like a Wisconsin prep, and the Sox love Midwest type guys, and they like know these guys well. So you have to be sold that he's a shortstop, right? But I didn't really find any wood bat success. Like, and it's just that's like just like one of these things for me where it's like if there's like no history of hitting with wood at all, I just like I don't know how you take a guy like without that, right? So, and it's always been very difficult.
No, I agree. And that's like, it's funny too, because again, like when you've been doing it for like 15, 16 years, it's like, I remember being the king of like, oh, we overrate the Cape Cod League. And now it's like, well, I experienced too many Will Craigs, and I learned that is not overvalued at all. And it's the same thing. I mean, heck, when I started out, a hit tool was based on how pretty your swing was. Like that was only in the last 5 years. I feel like that has changed. So it's that thing. It's one of the reasons why, when I'm going through and looking at players, I keep circling back to like Devin Taylor in particular. Like I'm going to be very honest. I know this is insane, but I have him like 9th on my board because he is a guy who outside of launch angle is green at everything. He does everything right. He barrels, he hits with velocity, makes contact. And even if he's left field only, look around baseball. There's like 2 teams in baseball that have a completely defined outfield. And a lot of people play weak arm players and right. Like I think knocking him because of what he isn't is not taking into account how much guys play out of position in the big leagues, how much Devin Taylor could play a poor right field in the big leagues. It'd be fine without his arm. Like there's a lot of guys who don't have the arm for it. And I look at him, and again, launch angle, not great. Like you could look to improve it, but I think it's like 14% as opposed to my data on Irish being like at 11, which is really not what you want. So like I look at stuff like that, and I think, and you look at that wood bat success, and you're like, there's a lot of reasons to like a player like that. And Indiana recently has been pretty good at development, which is also a point in their favor.
He's got a lot of plus tools. It's just that, like everybody that I've heard, and we saw the question that was asked in chat about where he's going to end up. And it's like most of the people that I've seen have him ranked in like the late 20s for the most part. And, I'm fine with whatever anybody wants to rank somebody at, because it's all subjective. But he does have all of his tools seem to be pretty good. There's just not one standout like crazy tool that he does have.
No, 100%. And it's like, I think him and Andrew Fisher had my most greens, and that's why I have both of them like back half of the top 10. And I know they're going to go in the late 20s, and that's fine. I sometimes get these crazy swings wrong. Sometimes I get them right, but I'm going to stick with my gut. And we'll see. It leads to weird things where like, for instance, I don't have Ethan Holiday as my number 1 prep player. Like that's where I am on my situation. And I know that's again, I'm just going out with bold takes. But when I looked at Ethan Holiday and I watched him, I talked with others, it's like, I'm not sure there's a plus trait outside of power. And I think it's like average hit plus power, maybe, raw power of a 70, but it's like, I just look at and there's a lot of swing and miss, and swing and miss is scary because outside injuries, the number 1 reason a hitter doesn't succeed is too much swing and miss. So again, me being, I know I'm doing all the seeing and hawing, but it's like, I look at like, I have Willits just about with the same grade as him, and I have DeBron is about the same grade as well. Like in the end, maybe Holiday ends up being the same. I currently have DeBron just a little bit higher because I think Holiday is the third baseman. DeBron could play center, and I view them kind of similar, which again, not consensus, but I just like seeing tools and traits where I think there's more than one way for someone to be successful, because if you're all power and then it's more raw and not game. And I know right now it is game, but it's a high school kid. It's kind of easier to have game power when you're facing a lot of guys who won't even play college. That, if the power isn't plus, then where does he go?
Fair enough. So, obviously the White Sox have been looking for a big power bat, and somebody that is asked about a lot in the chat, especially when the draft guys come on. Jace Laviolette, last year, James and I had a lot of questions about Jack Caglione because he had a super high chase rate. Didn't have a huge, a super high whiff rate, but now we have Jace Laviolette this year who has a much higher whiff rate to go with that chase rate. What are your thoughts on Jace Laviolette?
So I have as I'm doing my write-ups, I write them up and then I rank them. And he is currently the second lowest of the first 30 guys I've written up. So I would put him 29th. That's not saying he's 29 permanently, but of the guys I've written up, he's a 29. And the chase rate isn't ideal. And sorry, cat's trying to get on screen. But to me, one of those cutoff lines is guys with over 20% K rate tend to not be successful in college because it's just going to get worse in the minors and worse in the pros, and swing decisions don't often change. And I've just gotten burned too much. So I just kind of take anyone who's over 20% and they get shunted down. And right now, the highest ranked guy with over 20% K rate I have is Mason Neville, who could be a 3 outcomes because I believe he's a center fielder. In the power and the other, but again, he did not hit with wood at all. So this is still a guy who's late 20s for me. But even Wihai Aloy, whose name I probably said wrong, over 20% K rate, and it's just become a cutoff where I've been doing it. I think Pete Alonso is always the guy I talked about. I think Pete Alonso is over 20% K rate, and Pete Alonso was not good in the Cape, and that's my one example where I really kind of swung and missed. But I mean, everyone did, because those indicators were not positive for him. And when I kind of look at it, it's I know I saw someone earlier this year, I can't think who it was, who wrote about 25%. Honestly, I found 20 just to be the cutoff. And the other problem too is we know that walk rates don't really matter because they don't transfer. It's one of those things that they have no predictive future. A guy's walk rate is not something that you can see a straight line like other stats. There's such a degree of variance with that and with the level of the pitching you're facing, so you can't really count on walk rates. So I often don't even bother to look at that. So it's just, if a guy's K rate is too high, it either means that they're swinging and missing or they're too passive. And there's been a huge rise in passivity in college hitters. Going through the data, it pays to be passive, but the problem is that approach is not going to be successful when you move up. When you get even into the minors, we see too many guys who are too passive to start. The Guardians with Bazana, honestly, he was being way too passive to start this year. And there's some other players like that. So you got to be careful because you don't want an overly passive profile.
So I've heard, just from talking to people, there are a lot of teams, and this, you kind of alluded to this, the Sox picking at 10 or in a decent spot. There are teams that they don't want to pay the slot bonuses to guys, because it's just the bonuses have gone up so much, but the class isn't good enough to justify spending that type of money on some of these guys. So I want to get a little high school heavy with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Are there how many college hitters in this class do you have that you would even feel comfortable taking in the top 10 at this point?
So let's see, I've got Arquetta, and then I've got Fisher, and I've got Taylor, and that's really it.
Yeah.
And
then you have to be comfortable drafting a corner because So
and then Killen is my next guy, and then that means my fifth one is Merrick Houston, who I am not about. It's that situation where he's the fifth highest. So I'm not feeling the college hitter group.
I'm done with Wake Forest hitters. I can't do it.
No, I know everyone loves Nick Kurtz, but if you dig on that data, it's kind of hilarious that he can't hit lefties and he can't hit on the road. He's got like a 250 WRC plus in Sacramento and like an 80 everywhere.
I mean, have you
else.
looked at the CAG's chase rate in the big leagues?
It's
not good.
Shocking.
It's what we expected, but don't tell all the people who get angry at me all the time about it.
It is.
It's
troubling.
Everyone, I gotta say, Cleveland had never had the first overall pick until last year, so everyone became an expert last year, and I really appreciate all the people who had never paid attention to the draft before last year telling me all these things about the draft that I needed to know apparently. But yeah, it's looking at some of it, it's just kind of fun. It's like Kurtz has been fantastic at home. Moore has not been so great. It's hard, and I'm very curious to see too, because the data last year was just through the roof because something was clearly up with the baseball or the bats or something, and it came back to earth a little bit this year. But we saw a lot of guys really struggle.
So one of the favorite guys here in chat is Cam Canarella. Wolf is asking about if he's around in the second round. You think seems like a decent slot for him in that area?
He's right after Merrick Houston for me. He's my sixth best college player. So I have him as a top 20 talent. That's betting on his labrum being an issue this year. Because I thought he was going to be in contention for the number 1 overall pick after his freshman year, if I'm very honest. I think he's a plus defender in center. You're taking a risk because at the midway of the season, which is the last time I got full data, he had the worst 90th percentile exit velocity of any player on my list of data. And it was kind of that line of like functionality. But labrums are tricky. Labrums take a long time to recover from. I think, to me personally, I don't know if he gets past the comp round. I think there's someone who wants to jump on that value there. And I just think somewhere in that round, he probably goes.
I don't think he gets past the Dodgers. I think I told Ian this a couple weeks ago. Like the league cannot let the Dodgers get him like they got Mike Sirota. Like it's just
I still can't believe the Reds did that trade.
Similar to me, where
that just hurts my soul.
Mike Sirota was mocked in the top 10 and then had a bad year and then went late, and then the Dodgers like, oh yeah, we'll take him back for Gavin Lux, and now he's like a top 100 prospect. So it's just one of those things that they do. So Sox have been linked heavily. On the prep side, they got, I've heard similar. They worked out Billy Carlson here, like a stadium apparently. And there's been JoJo Parker rumors. I think most people just assume that Willits will be gone like by that point. And look, I don't even know, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Parker and Carlson are both gone. They have high level decision makers also very interested in Steele Hall. I thought they were taking a hitter last year in Hagen Smith. So look, like I don't know, like they could surprise me, but it seems like they would like to take somebody from this prep shortstop group at 10. What from that group kind of makes sense to you?
Parker's interesting. I wish his combine numbers, he hit the ball a little bit harder. I mean, I knew his brother is the better athlete. Like his brother was always going to have a better combine than him. Carlson, I think, is an elite defender, but he has the tools are loud, but I don't know if he's going to be more than kind of like average-ish offensively. I'm not kind of sold on the swing and the profile, but like I think he could be a Gold Glove shortstop. Like I honestly believe that. I think he's defense first. I think Parker is more offense first, and then Steele Hall is the one. The more I see, the more I like. I just think there's a lot of tools there, a lot of positive, ways for him to grow, and everything just looks good. And he's so quick. And it's just not that he's fast. It's like the bat is quick. Everything is quick twitch. The other shortstop in that group, I feel like every video of Daniel Pierce, half of the batting practice were pop-ups, and that had me a little concerned about what's going there with him. So I'm a little bit out on Pierce. I know you didn't mention him, but I just figured I'd throw him in since he often gets looped in with that group. So that's where I kind of stand, where, right now I lean towards probably Parker, then Carlson, and then Hall, honestly, would probably be my third. After that, Willits. Willits is, I do have number 1. But after that, it's like that grouping I kind of have in that order. I'm a little out on Cunningham, with the age, and then I'm not sure if there's power. So then you're relying on hit tool. And, I think, I know everyone talks about second base. I'd love to see him maybe try center field. Like, he does have the athleticism. And then it's also some of the, if you're in it long enough, there are certain people you get along with maybe better than others. And when you hear certain prospects connected to certain people, then it also maybe makes you a little more, to give some behind baseball look of it, where you've heard some, negative things about various people, then you're less likely to, if someone else is connected to that person, like that makes you a little more gun shy. Because it is a little bit, I guess, tribal is the unfortunate thing. I've never actually had any negative run-ins with anyone, but that stuff pops from time to time. So that's just part of the process of it all. But like, that's a very small part for me. It's like, I don't know if he's the shortstop. Everyone else, I'm pretty sure they're a shortstop. So that's the first separator.
So being a Cleveland guy, like, you're very attuned to like looking at the ages of players, right? That you're
Yes.
like looking at and who Cleveland might take. How big of a selling point is it for Willits and Steele Hall?
I think some of that started to get overblown because, like, very honestly, like, Cleveland got by the Rays, right? Like, the Rays fooled them by Jake Bauers. Like, he was a guy who was good, not great, who they aggressively pushed up through the minors, and Cleveland gave up Yandy Diaz for him. And, that didn't work out very clearly. And, they have gone with some overagers. They've gone with, if you believe the rumors at the time, if Alex Mooney didn't ask for more money, than Mac Hewer, who's a draft eligible sophomore right now, would have been a kid that they were going to sign 2 years ago. So they've even moved away from it. I do think it is advantageous, though, just because when you're looking at that player from, like, to me, the perspective is more like they're a year less developed. And if they're finding success at a year less developed at a point in time where that year means a lot, which is like those teenage and early 20s, that is where I think the value more lies, which is the same thing where sometimes I get nervous about draft eligible sophomores, because it means they've kind of had an extra year of development where they're, because Cleveland, the interesting thing about, I think, Cleveland and Chicago, honestly, is on top of them highly valuing the Cape, is I think they put more value sometimes into sophomore year data, because that is when they were not, the apex predator, as it were. They were not the top players. They had to face the older guys. And if they were able to find success as a younger performer, then that stands out sometimes more than when they are the older performer at the level.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Do you want to move to the arms, James?
Yeah, we can do that. So, I mean, I love Seth Hernandez. I understand like all the prep righty stuff, and nobody's ever done it at one. And I mean, like, Jackson Jobe is on his second surgery, and you've had but I just, I don't love the college arms. I think Seth Hernandez is, like Kate Anderson, fine, right? But I think there's big time questions on Jamie Arnold and on Doyle. So just how good can Seth Hernandez be? And then I guess like when would you take that plunge, basically?
Yeah, he's hard because he's like the best pitcher I've seen in a while from the prep ranks, and I am not a prep arm type of guy. I did a thing a year ago where it's like I did the value of like the last 20 years of top 15 picks, and you had a better chance of getting a 12 or better player from the college ranks in the top 5 than you did of getting even a 6 WAR high school player. Like, that's how much the boom or bust is. Like, it's easier to get a star college player than to get an average high school guy. So I'm always kind of weighing that risk, and especially because it's easier you can always find ceiling to a degree, and it's harder to find stability. It's harder to find floor. You're always trying to find the good balance, of course, between them. But saying that's like, to me, back of the top 10 is kind of like the ideal landing spot. I think if I was running a team, I'd have to strongly start considering him because if you could isolate and remove injury risk, then yeah, he's probably like number 1 on my board. But there's no prep pitcher survives. Like, we know that none of them make it through. So I have that, and then I think that's one of the other problems with this class is, honestly, like, after him, I'm really not wholly impressed with too many. Like, I don't know if there's a prep arm I really feel strongly about in the top 30 outside of him, unless I'm missing someone obvious, which happens from time to time if I'm not looking directly at my notes. But after him, because I'm also afraid of size. I know Noah's worked great for you guys, but Schoolcraft scares me. Anyone over 6'6", I just get nervous about keeping the mechanics together.
Yeah, that's fair. So what are your thoughts on the college arms in general? I mean, James mentioned a few. You've got Gage Wood that's made a a huge splash as of late. who do you have as your guys in the college ranks?
I still like Arnold a lot. I know it was not as strong of a consistent year. His data a year ago was like perfect, and then this year he definitely had some ups and downs. And I have him listed at Florida, not Florida State on my list. That's something I need to correct. But Florida State is also not always been the cleanest developmental profile for some arms. Of course, then you have like Anderson, and I actually have Witherspoon third, and then Brebner 4. I'm a big Brebner fan. I think the changeup might be the best secondary offering in the entire draft class right now. So I also really like. Then I debated honestly Doyle versus Quick. I'm not sold on Doyle, and there's a lot of positives in Quick. Plus, he's just fun. That you don't see a lot of pitchers who were 3-star offensive linemen in high school. Like it's just a different story, a different type of player. But I've talked about a lot. Like I was a big Ryan Sloan guy a year ago because I think it's really important for people, excuse my language, to have a nice thick butt on a pitcher, like that having that nice strong base, I think helps them stay healthy. Guys who are too skinny and don't have that strong trunk. I think that sometimes you want athleticism and you want a really strong trunk. And I think that helps guys stay better, stay healthy longer. So I look at someone like Quick who's got that and I'm like, that's a benefit.
Yeah, I mean, you see Tugboat out there, and that guy's pitching his ass off, and that guy does not look like he should be out there doing what he's doing. And he doesn't throw particularly hard, but he's just an awesome pitcher. And I kind of figure he's probably going to stay healthy probably for quite a long time, I would think. So, but yeah, you'll see.
Yeah.
How
high do you think Gage Wood ends up now?
When I did my write up, I thought for sure I'm gonna shoot this guy up the board. Like he had a really strong cape and the data has been great, but I think he probably does go in the teens. There's a Cade Horton effect in this. Maybe he does end up going in the top 10. I don't know if anything beyond the fastball right now is something like you're drafting him because the fastball is like, potentially a plus pitch, but everything else you're developing. It's not to say they can't be good pitches, but like there's a lot more development that needs to go on with Gage Wood than the other college pitchers. So it's not going to be a quick thing.
That's true. He's going to cut a deal though, which could help. You know what I mean? Like that's like the, hey, I hate this draft class. We'll sign Gage Wood for $4.5 million, pocket 2, and like take our chances down the board basically. So that I like, look, I don't know if the Cade Horton comp is like lazy. I've been using it. It's just like the thing that it reminds me of, right? Like this guy goes on this huge run and it's power stuff and somebody's going to take him because somebody always takes the guy.
No, yeah. I mean, they pop, and Wood is at least bigger than Horton. Horton had that negative of like was a smaller guy too. And Wood's not huge, but I think he's got like an inch on him or two. Like he's not Horton was a guy where I'm like, he's like 6'1", I want to say. And I feel like Wood is maybe 6'2", 6'3". I could be wrong with that, but it feels like guys like that do tend to elevate. But there's depth in the college class we have not had in recent years. So at least there's that with the pitching arms.
So do you want to move to the guys that you've got?
So just some Sox stuff. It just seems like the White Sox, and under Shirley, like this isn't that much of a surprise, right? But they're notorious for the front office just like kind of popping in and making picks. After your scouts have like done all the work basically. But like some of the guys they don't pick till 44. And I think they would spend $3 million at that spot. And then they pick again at 76. Just some of the prep names. Like I've seen Sean Gamble a ton in the first round, but that's a guy. Jaden Fauski's local here at Nazareth Academy. And then even like Tayton Gray, just any of those guys. Can we get either of the first two guys to 44 potentially?
I think Gamble will be hard, but I think the others could make it. I'll be very curious too to see if they kind of repeat last year because it looks fantastic now of like taking the fallen prospect. Like, Bonmer was a guy that was my number one prep, maybe not my number one prep hitter, but at least number 2, I think, behind Griffin in the fall, and then had a rough year. I wonder if they'll try to replicate that this year.
Well, they know him. I mean, he was on their codes team. They take guys off their area codes team. Both of their second 2 picks were last year. They take Midwest guys all the time. Sean Gamble is an Iowa kid who went to IMG. So I've seen the Phillies a lot for him. I think if they're going to give a guy $3 million, that's like, I think number 32-ish pick money at 44. So, you got to get a guy past like the 30s, and then you might be able to do it. But yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if their first 3 picks are 3 high school bats, and we're like, oh, they like finally did it this way.
Yeah, it's there'll be someone who slides, and that's what's always going to be this year, especially. There's going to be someone interesting who slides.
So then we kind of talked at 10. We don't have to. Just your thoughts at 10. I didn't put this in the rundown, but just looking at the top of this class, like what I don't expect us to know what Washington's going to do until that afternoon probably. But with their huge bonus pool, and where would you be leaning at this point?
I mean, last year they were so college heavy unless I hear something different, and even probably not then, because I allowed people to talk me off of Travis Bazzana. So there's like a week where I didn't have him one. I didn't one from like December till July, and then I let people convince me. So I'm going to have Kate Anderson. They were so college heavy a year ago. I just feel like it's kind of Anderson's spot to lose.
And then do you think he breaks the bonus record at 1 then? Barely. Like, is it like 9?
Yeah, I think it's probably
9-6 or something. Like, yeah. Like,
yeah.
Because I think the Rockies will pay similar money for Holiday at 4.
Yeah.
Like they'll go $9 million at 4 to like get.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those situations, and then there might be somebody who like in the teens. Honestly, one of those things I could see happening is someone going near that for Seth Hernandez and punting their draft, but intentionally getting him to slide.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to the Guardians?
Yeah.
All right. So, Jeff, have you heard any rumors on what you can expect for the Guardians here in the draft, and also what do you think they're going to do at the trade deadline?
I think deadline's going to be a lot of holding court. I know Guardians fans don't want to hear that. Like, honestly, I feel like more want them to tear down than anything else. But you're not going to. The one thing I've tried to tell people constantly is like the problem with trading a Class A is you're trading them to a contending team, so you're going to get far away assets. And the problem for teams like the Rays and the Guardians is they want to try to contend every year. So like and especially with a bullpen that's kind of imploding around him, they're not going to be too tempted to trade a piece off of it. So I think, they might look for some complementary pieces. But right now, unless, something turns around where a Lane Thomas or a Carlos Santana actually has some trade value, though I will say Lane Thomas has actually played really well in June now that he's healthy. But unless that happens, I think they're going to kind of promote from within. Guys like Brito and Delauder have been, if they hadn't been hurt, would already be up. And with the draft, Justin and I have been talking about like, it's either going to be a Cape performer or a prep hitter. It's kind of our feel. Probably a California kid if they can get one. They love going to California. But now that I've said that, they're definitely going to go with a college pitcher. I don't think I've gotten a Guardians pick right outside of Bazzana since Clinton Frazier. So I don't know if how much faith I have in myself right now.
Are you good to answer questions from the chat? Since
I can do a few more minutes, and then I gotta go run do my own, but I can take a few.
All right. So Adrian had a question just like I had. Quentin Young, what are your feelings on him? I watched him at the combine. What were your thoughts when you watched him?
It's such a boom or bust type of profile, and his bloodlines, and he kind of reminds you of both uncles. You hope it's more Dimitri than Delman, because Dimitri had the better career, even though Delman had the hype. But I mean, the power, as one would expect, is just legit in that frame and that size. So he's fun. I think he's kind of that like Comp Brown type of player, but I think he's a really fun guy, and a fan base is going to be excited to get him because fan bases always love guys with famous relatives and then power.
Seems like a San Diego Padre.
Yeah.
He is a large man too.
Yeah.
Also, Adrian also asks, is there anybody that you would like from the White Sox at the trade deadline?
Do the White Sox have a Cleveland leads the league in platoons, but they don't actually have a platoon bat. So like if they had a right-handed bat that is not necessarily a starter, but if they had a right-handed platoon, that's one of the big things I think Cleveland
Austin Slater.
Slater?
Yeah, it's pretty good against
There
lefties.
you go.
Like, yeah.
That's what they need. They've been running out Noel and Rodriguez and Will Wilson and all these terrible guys. So it's like they have the most platoon at bats in baseball this year, and then they don't have anyone who can hit lefties.
Luis Robert?
Yeah. 144 WRC plus against lefties, baby. Like, yeah. My God.
Yeah, that guy can hit lefties. If there's one thing that he can do, apparently, it's hit lefties. Who knew? So are you good, James? All right. Yep. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks for joining us. Know that your schedule's been crazy, especially with the draft coming up and all that stuff. You got a lot of stuff going on, so we really appreciate that. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you and your stuff?
Yeah, if you just search Locked On Guardians, that's where you can find everything I talk about. If you're looking for draft stuff, you can occasionally find just the draft only episode. And I stream the whole day 2 and day 3 of the draft. So if you just want to hop in, that'll be a place where I'll be taking all questions and trying to keep up with that. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff MLB Draft. And eventually, I don't know if you guys still want, I'll send you my profiles when I'm done with them as well. So then you guys can have those. I always throw the thing out there. I am a dyslexic, so sometimes my profiles might come across a little weird. Just understand the background on them if I do some word replacement. But that'll be the primary places I think you can find things for me this year.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and walk us out here. You have been watching / listening to the Future Sox podcast. If you are listening to this in podcast form, know that you can find us every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube and the Purple app. You can also find this podcast along with all of our written content at FutureSox.net. If you are looking for White Sox prospect highlights, you can find them on X at FutureSox and now also here on our YouTube channel. If you love the content and want to support us here at FutureSox, there's a link to our Patreon in our channel description and at FutureSox.net. You can also toss up a super chat on our YouTube stream. Also, don't forget to like this stream and subscribe with notifications so you know when we're going live while helping us in the World Wide Web algorithms. My name is Ian Eskridge. He's James Fox at JamesFox917. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening and commenting in the chat. You guys drive this community. We really appreciate you guys. You guys have a great night. We will catch up with you guys several times here. There's going to be a couple of pop-up episodes. So keep an eye out. We will be hanging out quite a bit in the next couple of weeks here with the draft coming up. So we appreciate you guys. Have a great night. We'll catch up with you next week. Thanks.